Okay, this is a first. I've never done this before, gone live in a new office, a new space. So let's see how we go. Okay, I see a couple of you are joining. Hey, Mindy. Okay, so what are we doing here? What are we here to talk about? Today is Yutes Kislev. First of all, before I start, I just want to say if at any point you have a question, put it in the comments and I will do my best to look at the comments and see and address them if a comment comes in during the live stream. So today is Yutes Kislev, which is the birthday of Chabad Chassidus. It's the birthday of the Chabad movement, let's say, more or less. And one of the really core features, one of the core tenets of this movement of Chabad Chassidus is that this idea, and the idea itself is not new. And that is the idea that I'm talking about is, it's one of the, it's a mitzvah, it's a commandment, and you shall love your fellow as yourself. This is not new. This has always been a part of Judaism. The thing that is, let's say, newish, or was newish, the thing that became one of the tenets of Chabad Chassidus is the fact that when the Torah tells us, when God says, and you shall love your fellow as yourself, it means it for real. Like, this is a real thing that we are supposed to actually be doing, is loving each other, loving our fellow as we love ourselves. It's not just this nice thing that we say. It's not something that is just an idea. It's something that we're supposed to actually live with. We're commanded to, we're obligated to, and instructed to, and guided to actually love our fellow as we love ourselves. Now, the thing is here, right? Let's assume that every decent person understands that we should love our fellow as us. We should love each other. We should treat each other decently. There's something here, and I wonder sometimes if I was just thinking about this recently. It came up in a conversation I was having with someone recently. When the Torah says, and you shall love your fellow as yourself, I wonder if the most important thing that the Torah is telling us here, more so than the instruction to love our fellow, let's assume that a decent person understands that at some level this is something that we should be doing. Maybe what the Torah is telling us here more than we should love our fellow is that the extent to which you can love your fellow is based on how much you love yourself. So the maximum, the Torah tells us that the maximum ideal of how much we should love someone else is the same as how much we love ourselves. And you shall love your fellow as yourself. You shall love your fellow as you love yourself. Meaning that the extent to which we can love someone else depends on the extent to which we love ourselves. We cannot love someone else more than we love ourselves. That's the maximum. And so maybe the most important thing, and honestly, I do think that practically speaking, for a lot of us, and possibly all of us, the first order, in a sense, that the most important thing to work on, in some ways at least, is how much we love ourselves. And the Torah tells us the maximum you can love someone else is dependent on how much you love yourself. If you want to be able to love someone else more, you first have to love yourself more. Because the most you can love someone else is the amount that you love yourself. How much can you love someone else? How much you love yourself. So if you want to love someone else more, love yourself more. The Torah is telling us if you are a good person and you want to love other people more, love yourself more. Now, obviously, in the explicit face value meaning of the verse, that's not what it's telling us. It's telling us to love others as we love ourselves. But implicit in that is the fact that the extent to which we love ourselves determines how much we can love someone else, and that's the maximum. So for a good person who wants to care about other people, the key to increasing our capacity to care about other people is increasing the extent to which we care about ourselves. If we want to increase our capacity to love other people, the key to doing that is increasing the extent to which we love ourselves. Because the extent to which we love ourselves determines how much we can love someone else. Now, I want to break this down a little and talk about what this means. Some people, if you ask them whether they love themselves, they'll say, no, not really, I don't, I'm not sure, maybe. There are a lot of people that if you ask them, do you love yourself? Do you love yourself? Their response will be, yeah, of course I love myself. But, and this is a very important but here, the question is, when people respond to that question saying, of course I love myself, or yes, I love myself, where's that answer coming from? Is it coming from in here? Or is it coming from up here? Is the person telling us that they love themselves as an idea, a piece of information? There is a piece of information. Someone asked me, do you love yourself? And let's say I say the answer is yes. When I say I love myself, am I responding from my head and saying, yes, well, I have this information in my head that says that I love myself? Because love is not a piece of information. Love is an emotion. Love is a feeling. And if we love someone, we feel that love in our body. There are physical sensations that we feel. Bringing this back to Chassidus for a minute, right? One of the focuses of Chabad Chassidus, of Chabad Chassidic philosophy is, more or less the whole thing is centered around this idea of loving God, loving the Creator in a way that's actual, genuine human love, the human experiential emotion of love. There's a book, Hayom Yom, that talks about this mitzvah. It's one of the commandments. One of the commandments is, and you shall love God. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. It doesn't say, and you shall behave as though you love God. And you shall treat God in a loving way. It says, and you shall love God. Meaning, and you shall feel love towards God. That's what that means. Hey, Baruch. So, in the book Hayom Yom, talking about this mitzvah, it says if there's a commandment, right? Many of the commandments, mitzvahs in general, there's an amount. You have to do this amount. How much do you have to eat to make a blessing before? How much do you have to eat to make a blessing after? Mitzvahs in general, the commandments tend to be measured and have amounts that you have to do in order to satisfy requirements, etc. So in Hayom Yom it says, when it comes to the mitzvah of loving God, and you shall love God, it's a commandment. What's the amount that you have to love God in order to fulfill this commandment properly? And it says very simply, and these are the words, it's written in Hebrew, but it says, I'll say the words in Hebrew, it says, Sheyurgesh hergesh gufni. The extent to which we have to love God in order to fulfill this obligation completely is to the point that we feel a physical bodily sensation of love. Right? When there's someone that we love dearly and they walk in the door, we're going to feel something in our body. We're going to feel physical sensations. There are things that are going to happen inside of us. Our heart rate might change. We're going to feel physical sensation. That's the way that emotions work. And so if our love for the Creator is as real and genuine as it's supposed to be, ideally, and it doesn't mean that if we're not there, we're not doing the right thing. It means that we still have work to do and we have a reason to get up and continue the journey tomorrow. But if we're doing it correctly in the ideal way, we are going to feel bodily sensations of love. Now, coming back to that question, do I love myself? Do you love yourself? Right? If loving ourselves is the prerequisite for loving someone else, and the extent to which we love ourselves determines the extent to which we're able to love someone else, right? So then the question becomes, okay, so do I love myself? And a lot of people will say yes, with that love being in the head as an idea. Or perhaps another way of framing this maybe is, well, yeah, I mean, I've got nothing against myself. I don't hate myself, right? Love does not equal an absence of hatred. Love does not equal an absence of dislike. The fact that I've got nothing against myself doesn't equal I love myself. They're not the same thing. They're not synonymous. Love means that there are physical sensations in the body that are associated with this connection, with this desire to be close, with this appreciation that we have. And the same way that the measure for how much we love God is, are there sensations in our body associated with that connection and relationship and longing? When we ask ourselves, do I love myself? The question is not, do you not dislike yourself? Because that doesn't equal, do you love yourself? The question is, do you feel in your body a connection to yourself? Do you feel sensations of love towards yourself? And that's a whole different question already. Now, this can maybe sound self-centered, etc. Feeling a sense of love for oneself. And the Torah tells us implicitly that your capacity to love another person is determined by how much you love yourself. The more you feel love for yourself, the more you are able to love another person. That's the way this works. So, if we want to be able to be nicer to other people, to behave more nicely to other people, the more we are nice to ourselves, the more we will be able to be nice to other people. The more we love ourselves, the more we will be able to love other people. And again, love doesn't mean, loving ourselves doesn't mean being selfish, and it doesn't mean being self-centered or arrogant or any of that. It just means that we actually feel a connection to ourselves. We have a relationship with ourselves in which we appreciate ourselves, and there's a sense of closeness to ourselves. And the measure of that is, do we feel it? Because love is a feeling, it's not an idea. Love is not a thought. Love is an emotion. It's something that we feel. I'm thinking about whether to go now into what this looks like. What does that work look like? or maybe to plan it out a bit more and do it in another video. You know what? I'm here, I'm live, I'm going to rant a little and we'll see how it goes, and maybe I'll do it again. So, and the truth is, I think that I suspect, maybe it's more a bit stronger than a suspicion, but let's call it a suspicion for now. I strongly suspect that the vast majority of people, let me put this delicately, but here I could say I'm quite confident. I'm quite confident that the vast majority of people have room to increase the extent to which we feel in our bodies a love for ourselves. We feel an appreciation for ourselves. We feel a connection and a closeness to ourselves. Behergish gufni, with a physical, somatic bodily sensation. What does that look like? What does working on that look like, right? I think depending on the where a person's at, there are a couple of different angles, right? In Torah and in Judaism, we have these terms that are called sur merah and aseh tov. And all of religious observance is divided up into these two categories. Sur merah is to stay away from bad, to not transgress prohibitions, let's say, stay away from the negative. And then there's aseh tov, which is do good. Right? It's don't eat junk food, eat healthy food. And when it comes to increasing the extent to which we feel hergish gufni, a physical bodily sensation of connection and appreciation and love for ourselves, for some people, perhaps the place to start focusing on more might be in the sur merah, meaning let's figure out what's in the way of me loving myself and then see what I can do. And then there's the aseh tov, the doing good, which is not necessarily focusing so much on what's in the way and addressing it, but how can I just build this? How can I build this more? How can I build love for myself? It really depends, I would say, where a person is at. If we ask ourselves, and ask ourselves genuinely, right? We slow down and ask ourselves, do I love myself? If we ask ourselves whether or not we love ourselves, and we feel a resistance come up, something that's like, no way, or something strong, something that's pushing back, or something that just very strongly says no, that's an indication that there's something that's in the way. And now what we need to do is the sur merah, is work on what's in the way of me being able to genuinely love myself, and how can I address that in a way that will allow me to love myself more. If a person asks themselves, if we ask ourselves, do I love myself? Do you love yourself? And when we ask that question and we slow down and stop and leave space for it to land inside, and there's no strong response, it's not a no, it's not a nothing very strongly negative. Maybe it's just, yeah, or maybe it's, yeah, of course, but it's up here and there's no sensation of love showing up. There's no feeling in the body of connection, of appreciation, of relationship with ourselves. Then it's very likely then that the place that we want to be focusing our efforts on is not necessarily looking at it as there's something in the way and I need to address it. Maybe there isn't anything in the way. Maybe I just need to cultivate it. Maybe there just isn't a familiarity inside of me, inside of my body, inside my emotional programming with this concept of actually, well, not concept, with this emotion, with this experience. It's not a concept, with the experience of feeling love for myself. And then the question is, what can we do to cultivate that, to cultivate the capacity to feel a connection for ourselves? Again, with the reminder that the more we love ourselves, the more we can love another person. And loving ourselves is a fundamental, basic part of being a healthy person. And I'm going to repeat this for the, I don't know how many time. We're not talking about being obsessed with oneself. We're not talking about being selfish or self-centered or arrogant or any of those things. Just talking about being a healthy person who feels love for themselves. And the more we have that natural, fundamental, healthy love for ourselves, the greater our capacity to love other people, the greater our capacity to do things for other people and to care for other people. And when it comes to this question of what can we do to actually develop and cultivate this, again, it's going to be an individual specific question. And there could be a number of different angles that we could take, but probably one of the common things that could be very, very helpful and very powerful in terms of moving someone along this path is, and there are very simple exercises we can do, and the truth is it's a very physical, physiological thing to develop the sensitivity to sensation and to develop the sensitivity to experiencing emotions and to experience and feel connection in our body in a way that there are physical bodily sensations. And the more that we develop the ability to feel love for ourselves, the more we will develop our capacity to love other people. The more we address things that are getting in the way of us feeling a genuine love for ourselves, if there are things in the way, as we clear those things out and we become more able to feel a genuine, healthy love for ourselves, again, we become more able to feel a genuine human experiential love for another person. In terms of what those exercises actually look like, I think that's maybe a topic for another day, another video. And if you're watching this now and you'd be interested in something like that, please drop a comment and I'll see what I can do. Yeah, so I think that's more or less, what I wanted to get off my chest for now. That when we talk about loving our fellow as we love ourselves, maybe the most important thing here is, the most important message is, your ability to love someone else depends on the extent to which you love yourself. Don't sleep on the importance of having a healthy love for yourself. If only because, if not, to be clear, I'm not saying that this is the most important reason. That would be definitely an oversimplification. It would be an oversimplification to say it's not true, but it's definitely not just the case. If only because it's what the Creator wants from us, it's what the Creator wants for us, and we have an obligation or responsibility to love others, and our capacity to love others depends on how much we love ourselves. And so the truth is, it would make sense that a person who either, let's say, lacks love for themselves or struggles with feeling love for themselves may also struggle with, or not necessarily feel a desire to increase their love for themselves. Especially if there are things in the way. It might feel like, oh my goodness, that's so selfish, I can't increase how much I love for myself. That's so self-centered, or just, I can't do that, or it's not for me. Whatever it is, there could be 1,000 different objections and points of resistance that show up when we talk about that. So if someone doesn't feel comfortable, doesn't feel okay with the idea of, I should develop and cultivate a love for myself just because it's the right thing to do, then do it because it's what God wants for you. It's what God wants from you. And we have a responsibility to love other people, and the Torah tells us that our ability to love other people, our capacity to love other people, depends on how much we love ourselves. So I'm seeing in some comments here a interest in talking about some tools. I will bli neder. I'm going to make an effort. I want to think about and figure out exactly how to do it, how it makes the most sense to do it. But I with God's help, we'll put something out to address it, to talk about it. But if I have to summarize, I guess, what's the message of the video? What's the message I'm trying to leave here now? It is correct and virtuous, according to Torah, according to God, according to the Creator, for every single one of us to feel a healthy love for ourselves. Feeling a healthy love for oneself is not selfish, it's not self-centered, it's not arrogant, it's not a bad thing. It can't be a bad thing if we believe that the Torah is true, and the Torah says, and you shall love someone else to the extent that you love yourself, and that's an obligation to love someone else, and it's dependent on the extent to which we love ourselves. Then we have a responsibility to maximize the extent to which we love ourselves, because that increases our capacity to love other people. We have a responsibility to cultivate a love for ourselves, not a self-obsession, but a deep, natural, healthy love for ourselves. And that means that if there are things in the way, it's a good, positive, virtuous thing to work on those things that are in the way of us loving ourselves, so that they don't have to continue to be there like that. And if the thing that's in the way is not necessarily a point of resistance or something, that a barrier that's standing there, but just that feeling of love is not there, we don't feel a physical, bodily somatic sensation of love for ourselves, then we have a responsibility to work on cultivating and developing a healthy love for ourselves. Have a good evening, and I'll see you